Members, can we proceed? I think, was it Honorable Daniels?
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. And I want to apologize for a late declaration I'm going to make. The Bafana goalkeeper, Ronza Williams, the captain of the squad, and the former goalkeeper, Kalen Swart of Banyana Banyana, and myself, we come from Galvindale, PE. So for what it's worth, I thought, let me register that. If there's a conflict of interest from the northern areas of Port Elizabeth. We do indeed breed some fine athletes there. You can ask Dr. Jordan, who's also from my neck of the hood. I read a statement, quite disturbing, by one of our legendary footballers, Sean Bartlett, when he makes reference to, and he answered people on questions being asked, why is it that the footballers, and they cited Cape Town, but I'm sure it's beyond Cape Town as well, are not getting paid what they are worth. And they are told, go to Gauteng if you want proper income as a footballer. Now, how are we going to redress this imbalance? And we can argue the fact that clubs are privately owned. We cannot tell people how much they must pay their players. But surely it's a problem, because everybody now goes to Gauteng, depriving us from our homegrown talent. And coming from the soil of, let's talk about Cape Town, because he made reference to Cape Town. Coming from the soil of Cape Town, how are we going to be an inspiration to the others on the ground? Those small and those beginnings, how are we going to be an encouragement to them if we pack our bags and we have to leave because of that challenge that we have? So I want to know, in this room, there must be appetite to address that problem. It is a problem. There must be appetite to address that. Has SAFA got a plan? Is there something they can do? Then, I also want to know our professional teams, our PSL teams. Is there a mandatory obligation given to them to ensure that they facilitate development of this beautiful game within the jurisdiction of where their home grounds are? And I have a reason why I asked this particular question. Let me pause there and wait on a response, please, Honorable Chairperson.
There's two questions, two responses, please. The issue of redress the imbalances. Crack the whip, Press. Crack the whip.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Chair, and thank you very much, President. The imbalance in the payment of salaries on professional teams is an economical factor that posits right through the world, where you'll have your Barcelona team, you'll have your Mallorca team. So it's the same. It's pure economy. That when you play in a certain place, the salaries will be at this rate. You go to a certain place, at this rate. But then what do we do? Club licensing is the answer to that, because once you introduce club licensing, then you level the playing fields. You can get to the point as well of having your minimum salaries paid to players, though you can't cap. But it's and also what's key with club licensing is the issue of that you can also, the financial fair play issue that's applicable in Europe, where you'll find that the money allowed for football clubs to use is football money. And then once you introduce that, then you level the playing field so that salaries will be more or less equal. Because the moment you allow private money to come in and pay salaries, it means that the clubs can afford money to pay to players that is not from football, which is then gives a disadvantage to those that only use football money. The last point the other question the club licensing is the answer to basically both your questions. Once we bring club license, then it normalizes everything. And then we can then move forward to make sure that there's equity in football clubs right through the country, not necessarily those in Joburg. But economy will always drive to the point there will be bigger clubs than others, there will be smaller clubs, so salaries will never be the same.
So with the CAF licenses, are you saying, you're telling me there is a plan, there is a way out to address the imbalances? Is there something that you're going to do about it?
Yes, FIFA has got documents that talks about club licensing, and we are in the process of dealing with it as well.
Any time frames about such processes? Because you sound like politicians now. We are going to do this for you and that for you. We never say when.
Club licensing is not only the formula for professional football, it's the remedy even for amateur football. Because club licensing makes us regulate each and every club in this country to make sure that what you were saying, to impose what are the requirements for you to have a club, what are your obligations to the area you are in. All those issues are addressed by club licensing. And FIFA, to address this issue right through the world, they've got policy on club licensing that SAFA is in the process to implement. It may take a year or two to implement, but as soon as we implement that, that will be the time then we see real redress on the issues of parity in payment in football.
Then lastly on this point, I would request the Honourable Chairperson, because it's a serious matter, that SAFA give us updates on the developments of these things to the benefit and betterment of the game. Thank you. And then the obligation, mandatory obligation, are there any for them to the professional teams in the jurisdiction of where the home grounds are?
Currently none. That's why I say club license is what will address that issue. Once you have club license, then that's when you bring the obligations and what these various clubs must do in their areas. But I have to say that there are clubs that are working very, very well within the areas that they are in, and they are very supportive. Like in Gauteng, they've got a league, that's junior leagues that they work, that includes the professional clubs and also the amateur clubs. So in different areas, there's different approaches, so it depends on the relationship at that time. But club licensing, once it's introduced, then it will level the playing fields for everyone. But currently, the relationship is just managed whether we can relate and we've got the same common goal going forward.
Honorable Daniels, I just want to add to what Honorable Daniels is saying. I think every time it's club license, what is SAFA doing on that? And I think that is the members' concern. Has something been done to date as far as the issues concerned and the response on club license? Is there programs?
This question also relates to, as is indicated, it deals with the competitiveness of the whole league, because in South Africa and also in Europe and elsewhere you can say next year Barcelona or Real Madrid is going to win the league, the other teams are going to play to avoid relegation. And this is about the financial resources that these teams have. UEFA has introduced something that they talk about, financial fair play. So the financial fair play, they look at the revenue, because at one stage, 80% of the English Premier League clubs were bankrupt. I don't know the South African position, but it's also a challenge. And they try to distribute the money so that nobody must sink. At least they must keep the head above the water. So we will have to look at the financial fair play, see how we can improve it, and we'll send you a copy of the financial fair play, and maybe you can also make an input, because it is an issue not just from a revenue standpoint, but from a competition standpoint. Because if we don't, then we can now predict for the next 10 years, this team is going to win the league, this team is going to be number one, this team number two, and so on. What about the rest? And you invariably you'll find that those teams are further away from the metropolitan areas, in the rural areas, which means they will just come up and be relegated, come up and relegated. So what we'll have to do is to send you the financial fair play model from UEFA, and we can then engage on this issue.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jordan. The CFO indicates that SAFA is struggling with sponsors, getting sponsors on board. And then also says that because of the good performance of Bafana, there's now interest from sponsors or funders to come on board and assist, which is very welcoming to hear. But then we've got, besides the fact that our junior national teams don't get funding, Banyana don't have sponsors. But in my understanding, Bafana woke up the other day, a few sleeps ago. Banyana was awake a long time ago. And they've been performing much better than Bafana. Now, if I sit here and I hear the CFO saying that companies now express interest to come on board, why is Banyana then not favored, considering their track record of performing much better than Bafana? Is it then the very same reason why there's a boys' brigade here in front of us? That they are biased to Bafana as opposed to considering Banyana also, based on the track record? Thank you.
Response?
Yeah, I think that in spite of being the boys' brigade, we have a real commitment to women's football. We've already decided in 2013 that all our women teams must be coached by women. And we have accelerated women coach education, women participation in the governance structures and so on. We have not arrived at an ideal situation, but this is something that we'll continue to work on. So the question of the sponsorship for Bafana, you see the long list of sponsors for Bafana. Banyana, only two sponsors. And this is a reluctance. Maybe the boys' club is also in the corporate boardrooms and they take boys' club's decisions and not benefit women football. And I don't think football is alone. If you look at rugby and women's rugby, you look at the men's cricket and the women's cricket, and you can go through. See how much does the Springboks earn, how much does the women team earn, and so on. But this is an issue not just for SAFA. It's a societal issue, an issue that we will happily work with you on this question because it is important that we address this issue. So I just want to say that this is a matter that, of course, is not the end, but it's a matter that will continue, and hopefully we'll see a breakthrough on women's sponsorship for women's football. On the youth also, we have 10 national teams. We have Bafana, Banyana, and then we have 6 youth teams, under 15, under 17 boys and girls, under 15 boys and girls, under 20 boys and girls. 6 teams, no sponsor, not a single sponsor. Now, where must the money come from? The money must come from SAFA in some way, because we have to have a commitment to the youth. We cannot talk about drugs and all sorts of problems and we don't have a program to take the kids off the street and put them into sport. So these are the challenges that we face. And besides the fact that in all sports, 60% of the revenue comes from broadcasting. That is so in the English Premier League, every other league, 60%, in some case 50%. In SAFA, 0. The Springboks, for a 5-year term, received 2.8 billion rand broadcast rights. Cricket, 1.4 billion rand. SAFA, 0. And in spite of those challenges, we have to address those issues. But we will be happy to work with you on this matter, particularly on the women, because even in the broadcast for men's sport and women's sport, from the SABC, which is a state broadcaster, you'll see the gap and the difference. Men's game is valued higher than women's game. And these are the challenges, but we are not there yet.
Thank you, President. Proceed, Honourable Member.
Thank you so much, Chairperson. I don't have long more to go. I've got about 2 things I want to touch on. But Dr. Jordan, I can never buy into you wanting to make a reference about cricket and rugby. And as much as it's true, no man's wrong is any man's right. And we shouldn't reference somebody else and say, but they're doing it so we can also do that. Let us start here. The change starts with us. Our footballers die poor. And it's sad. Footballers sell furniture, and even to the extent, sadly so, collect bottles to sell, to survive. We need to make sure that there's programs in place to educate them, train them, financial management and other things, to give them a holistic development, not just being great out in the middle and struggling on the side. So that is something I would like us to look into. Then my question is, if a PSL team wants to relocate their home ground elsewhere, do they write to SAFA and request permission to do so? Question? No. Then whose prerogative is it to do that? It's the PSL. So PSL will approve or disapprove such applications. Are you aware, because of based on the statements that I've read in the media about Chippa United, forever going back to BCM, they signed, I think, under correction, a 20-year agreement there for the stadium, somewhere around 3,000 rand a month. I stand to be corrected. And now say that, no, we are now going to BCM. We are taking all our games there. So surely I want to know then, was a letter, are you aware of a letter of such a request that was sent to the PSL?
Thanks, President. In yesterday's paper, they have withdrawn that. They said that it was rumors that they were going to PCM. They are no longer going to PCM. That's what I read in yesterday's paper.
That's the U-turn.
Yes.
My question relates to, did the PSL receive any correspondence from Chippa United requesting to relocate
CEO?
the home ground?
I am not aware of that. They write to the PSL. The PSL Chief Executive Officer is Ms. Mato Madlala, so they would write to her, and then she would take that to her executive committee, which is separate from the South African Football Association.
Honorable Chairperson, this is very serious because it is the only PSL team in the Eastern Cape. I'm a firm believer that we need more than one PSL team there. But these type of threats, if I'm not happy, I take my ball and I leave. That is not on. And therefore, through you, Chairperson, I would like them, PSL, to respond to whether such applications were made for relocating the home ground from Nelson Mandela Bay to Buffalo City, East London.
Thank you, Honourable Daniels.
I've got one more, Honourable Chairperson.
Okay, you have 60 seconds. Proceed.
Brewers, Bafana coach announced the final squad for the friendlies to be played. this week and next week, Mozambique and Tanzania. 23 players for the friendlies to be played. 16 of the 23 are black African players. 7 of the 23 are not. I've always asked myself, and particularly when I watch Bafana play, and at times, if Ronwen Williams was not the goalkeeper, there would not have been a colored player on that field. How and why is it, if we reflect on 1996 AFCON, that was a true representation of a rainbow nation representing our country, and look what they've achieved, and it was the last time they've achieved that. Safa, how and why is it that you're not going to tell me there's no quality colored players? You're not going to tell me there is no Neil Tovis out there, white players. Why is it that when it comes to Bafana, the majority must be black African in particular? That is not fair. If the colors had no talent, there would not have been a Kalen Swart. There would not have been a Roland Williams. There would not have been a Dane Clayt. There would not have been a Frankie Skuman. There would not have been a Bradley August. There would not have been a Sean Bartlett. There would not have been a Benny McCarthy and others. Why are you guys folding your arms when this happens? Is it because the African National Congress is controlling you? If it is the case, I want to know. Because it's a National Congress for Africans. Honorable Chairperson, this is, you know why? They want to call us colored people, gangsters, druggies, banditi. We've got so much talent amongst us. But it's because we are deprived of opportunities for being the wrong color of our skin that we don't make it where we belong to play at those levels. I firmly believe that this must be addressed properly, fairly, and afford everybody the opportunity to compete for that positions. Because when our people, a child in sport is a child out of court.
Wrap up, Honourable Member.
I will wrap up. Thank you so much, Chairperson. So my request here is then, through you, Chairperson, SAFA must answer how and why is it that there's not enough representation of colored players in the Bafana squad when we've got so much potential, including white players. I've not seen Indian players really play football. Show me one or two, please, but if they are, consider them. Thank you so much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable Daniels. May I make the ruling that the issue pertaining to the team in Eastern Cape be communicated to the committee, and perhaps seeing that I would gather that it's part of the constituency of Honourable Daniels and perhaps to him as well. Will SAFA respond to the letter, and then I will ask the next Honourable Member on the list respond to the letter question of Honourable Daniels.
Question of the composition of our team.
Yes.
Yeah. No, the question of selection of the team is the matter for the national coach. The Bafana team that won the bronze medal in Cote d'Ivoire, look at that team. Look at the team now. It may be, there is not just Ronwen Williams. There was also Peterson. I don't want to get into all of these things of racial categories because we are a non-racial organization. And we have to stick to it. Because this question of race is a threat to our society. And we must not, let me leave that. I'll talk to you offline on those issues. But I am clear that there is significant
Honourable Chairperson.
opportunity.
Honourable Daniels.
I've asked this question, not offline. So I don't understand why we must have side stories. Honourable Jordan, you must understand one thing. You and I come from the same corner of Nelson Mandela Bay. You should understand equally the way I understand what this means. Now, it's not just Nelson Mandela Bay focused. I'm just using it as an example. You know what it does and what it means to our people. So I wouldn't appreciate an offline around the corner cup of tea discussion. This is the place we must iron everything out because we are of transparency. There's no malice in my question. It's just an uncomfortable question to some. But it's an important question. Thank you, Chairperson.
No.
Thank you. Maybe I must make this ruling. I hear what the President says in terms of the team, but I think the issue raised by Honorable Daniels is core to the oversight rule pertaining to the work out there, particularly when entities received money from the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture. So we have to address the inequalities. We have to transform sport in all spheres, and I think that is the crux of the matter. Perhaps I don't know. I hear what you say, Honorable Dennis, but for the question of time, if the SAFA can perhaps submit us with the criteria, you know, because these issues are lying out there. It's also territorial representativity, you know, geographic representativity, and also where SAFA plays. I don't know when last. In 2010, I traveled all the way with SAFA, but I don't know when last did Bafana played in FNB. You know the dynamics. I don't know when are we paying FNB. You know, all these kind of things. I don't know when last did they play in the Northern Cape, in the Northwest, for what it's worth. But if it's fine with you, Honorable Daniels, if they can submit the criteria in selecting the team. Respond.
Let me respond to that, please, Chairperson. It's not fine with me, because what I sense here is Dr. Daniel Jordan is thinking, hey, my job. If I must now unpack here, hey, my job. We can't be sitting here singing for our supper. Dr. Jordan has been around the block over and over and over. It's time to stand down. So if this standing up for colored people is going to cost him his job, hi man, you must go with me to the Ghana, to Calvindale. And there'll be people waiting there for you, cheering you on when you come.
No, I'm not afraid of the job. Certainly not on non-racialism. That is my life. I've been in the struggle for non-racialism, and I'm still pursuing non-racialism. But I think that my friend from Buffalo City wants to deal with the question. I am confident that there is enough for your benefit, colored players. There's Basadine, there is a lot of players. They're all mentioning.
Yeah. Thanks, President. Thanks, Chair. At Bafana, all our national teams, if you go by demographics of this country, we are the only code that fully represents everyone. We may be failing in the one race of white, we may be failing there, but all the other races, if you look at the demographics of the country, we fully, there's no other code that beats us. If you look at the team, the under 20 team that won now, we actually got over-representation in that team of the other races to what you call black Africans. So let's not look at it at one side. And we fully, I've got no fear or what about that as SAFA. We fully comply with the demographics of this country. And we don't have to do what other codes do and bring quota players. It happens naturally.
Thank you, Honorable Sally. Proceed.
Thank you, Honorable.